when the right people come together at the right moment, when they care almost as much about winning as they do about each other, they can become the best of the best.
Welcome to the Best Soccer Show, the best soccer show in the whole world.
Here we go. It's the Best Soccer Show. Trying to get my energy up on a Monday. Middle of the day, Jared.
I know. You didn't even do your hair this morning.
I did not do my hair. You notice that my hair doesn't look good?
Well, why do you think there's a hat on my head?
Yes. We were talking about the glare off your snapback. A little bit of sunlight bouncing in from the California.
Yeah, so my brother for Christmas, I guess my wife asked me one day randomly, she was like, "What's your hat size?" I'm like, "Snap cap." I'd like third hole. I don't know. Like, so I guess my brother was trying to get me you've seen The Natural, right?
Of course I've seen that. Are you serious?
Yeah.
Dude,
I'm just making sure.
Do you know me? Do you even know me?
Okay, so he was trying to get me. There's
You're talking to me.
Go ahead.
There's this company that makes like a few different things. He's trying to get me a New York Knights hat. Like there's a company that makes like old school style New York Knights hats from that.
Okay.
And he knows like I love that movie growing up, but they couldn't. Obviously I didn't have a hat size, so he got me, and it's on its way. The company's also making these LA Aztecs sweaters.
Oh, okay.
Like not like just simply silk screened on, or they're actually like stitched and stuff like that. So
By
I'm
the way,
excited to get that.
Is that the kind of thing? Like I know our boys at Bumpy Pitch did an Aztec shirt back in the day, right? And
Yeah, I have one.
We've seen like the Fall River Marksman stuff out there in the world back in the day. Is that just like not the Fall River stuff? That's super old. But the Aztec, like all that NASL stuff is just like public domain now. Like you can just grab it and mix it.
I don't know who has the rights, or if you have to do any kind of licensing, because I'm not sure who it would go to. Like I'm not sure who owns that stuff, but
right.
It seems like it's kind of out there in the ether. I'm not positive though.
By the way, we do have the phone line up on the YouTube if anybody's watching this. Unfortunately, I cannot take phone calls because Nicky Soup and Sausage is not here. He's actually working like a normal human being, whereas you and I are just doing whatever.
We could take them blind.
I can't take them. That I literally,
okay.
I don't have the capability to bring them on the air because we use Nicky to do that. I just okay. So and somebody else is pointing out, Gregory's pointing out in the chat here that Christian Pulisic is playing right now for Chelsea against Aston Villa. And we're keeping an eye on that. This is when this works for us. And this is the reason it's happening right now. It's because this is like the in-between time.
Yeah.
Like, Jared, I know that you've listened to Doug Loves Movies. I don't know if you're listening now.
I haven't listened about a year or so.
Okay, whatever. You know about Doug Benson. And he calls this period between Christmas and New Year's, he calls it the taint of the year. I called it the in-between because I'm not as crude as noted comedian Doug Benson. But it is like this weird zone of, what are you supposed to be doing?
There's no expectations in life during this week.
You're supposed to not do anything, right? Like shut it down if you can.
I mean, I took the week off from work, and this is the first time I've ever been able to do that. So, dude, I'm enjoying the taint in a way I've never enjoyed before.
I'm gonna give you a little ding for that. Congratulations on being able to take a week off from work. I am, on the other hand, and again, this is why we squeeze this in at whatever time it is on a Monday. My in-laws are about to land. I mean, literally land in a couple hours, descend upon my house. And I think I've mentioned,
and not leave until the baby's born.
Until after the baby's born, yeah.
Oh, they are staying that long?
My mother-in-law and my father-in-law are going to stay for at least 2 months. I think is the plan right now. So there's a lot of,
I'll cross myself for you.
Preparing. I know how much that means to you too.
I don't even know if I did it right. I think it went in the wrong order. I don't know.
It's definitely not forward.
I don't know. Is it?
You're like out here offending everybody who believes in the Lord and Savior Jesus.
I may have done an X. I don't know.
So anyway, there's a lot of preparation going on in my house, and I think I've mentioned this before. And she is just above me here, so I'm gonna say this: my wife is a very clean person. Like to the OCD levels. Sometimes, like it's like everybody else says that's clean, and she's like,
"How's she feel about all the scarves not lining up right?"
You know what? I don't think she's actually been in this space since I've put this together.
That's probably been for the best.
I don't think that would bother her, actually. It's not that. It's just cleanliness is a thing. So there's a lot of that happening.
She would hate me today. I dropped a whole huge bowl of chicken tortilla soup on the floor. My wife just mopped yesterday today. And I made my boys swear to secrecy. They'd never tell her.
Oh, no. Did you clean it up? Like,
Oh yeah. Oh, and if you don't think I scooped a bunch of that off the floor, put it back in a bowl, and ate some of it,
no.
I told you she just mopped it last night.
That just means that the cleaning material, the cleaning chemicals are still on the floor.
I'd rather have that than some of the other stuff's on my floor sometimes with these two boys.
I know we're gonna get to the soccer, guys. I promise. But what kind of mopping solution is in use in your house?
Oh, like for that occasion or normally?
Normally,
my wife got this new thing that has like a spinner in it, and like,
we have that too. My wife loves it, the little spinner thing.
Yeah.
What chemical goes in the water to?
Oh, I think it's like a Lysol floor cleaner or something like that.
Lysol. Okay.
I mean, I don't know.
All right, we're a
Maybe it's
Fabuloso.
Fabuloso sometimes.
Yeah, Fabuloso is the thing here. Now, since the last time we gathered, and it's been a while because I had stuff during Christmas week that meant we couldn't do a live show. LAFC lost in the CONCACAF Champions League final to Tigres, Jared, and I know you don't have any love for LAFC.
No.
This was again one of those like MLS has to win this to prove that it can compete with Mexico, and et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. You get distracted by Galaxy stuff. I saw that.
I don't. Did it just come out? I haven't heard that.
I don't know. We'll get to Greg Venny at some point, but I don't think it's.
I mean, someone's breaking news to us on this show, maybe, or maybe they're just believing the rumors. I'm not sure. But okay, so the LAFC thing. Here's how I break that down for me as a guy who hates LAFC and the Galaxy since '96. I approached it as kind of a neutral because I do have that. I want MLS to get over the hump thing. I do have that. I want MLS to succeed. I want someone to get the monkey off the back of MLS when it comes to Mexican teams.
You want to be able to go to work and say to those guys you work with, MLS got one. That's what you want to do?
Well, I mean, yeah. I mean, that'd be nice. Just more just in life. But at the same time, it's LAFC, and I have no love lost for that team. So I came into it fairly neutral, watching it, and at one point I caught myself like getting mad that the ball went out of bounds and it was the incorrect call and LAFC didn't get the right call. So I was like, crap, I guess I'm 51% on this right now.
Yeah. I believe we did talk about this on the From the Stands last week. On the phone call. We briefly did it before the Eunice Moose episode. By the way, everybody, make sure you're listening to the From the Stands episodes. This week coming up is Wolves and O&O to Sowie. So that's coming at you soon. But I don't know. Like, I am so over the Champions. I talk about soccer
as a competition. You don't care about it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I don't know if you knew this, but I do have a radio show where I talk about soccer.
Heard that before.
I think you might have heard that before. I think I might have told you before. And look, I will not deny, and this is a little curtain being pulled back for everybody who listens to Sirius XM, that I throw it on a little bit, right? There's some shtick. I'm doing an entertainment product. I'm not.
You're the Tucker Carlson of Sirius XM SC.
Oh my God. Are we going to shut this thing down right now?
I thought that's what you're saying.
Danger zone!
What I'm saying is that sometimes I add an extra layer of, I don't know, showmanship on top of what I'm talking about. But and I've talked a lot about the Champions League and being over it. Actually, the other thing I say is that it's the greatest Champions League in the world, clearly, because look at all the crazy things that happened in it. But man, even if MLS won it, even if LAFC had won this one, even if they won it in a normal year, even if 2021 delivers the first MLS champion, it's not going to suddenly mean that the Champions League is like angels from heaven and oh my God, and everything is that.
I think you feel differently if the MLS team won. I think you'd feel differently. I think it would mean more to you.
In what way? I really do think emotionally. Look,
even as a journalist who has a Big J journalist that has a show on, it would give you something different to talk about.
What is this? Attack Jason? What is happening right now?
I've just heard you're Big J. That's all I've heard before. I don't know.
I told you before. Big J in the bedroom, not Big J anywhere else. Okay?
Oh, my bad. Okay. But I do think it would give us all a different thing to talk about, a different thing. And I think it would give us every team out there, every MLS team out there would have the belief that they could potentially win.
Look, I think MLS teams want to win it. I don't think there's any doubt about that. I think they absolutely want to go out there and look.
But I'm not talking about want. I'm talking about belief.
Okay, you mean that? Okay, I see what you're saying. Like instead of this,
I'm sure the U.S. wanted to go to the moon, but until you actually did it, that's really just showing that it can be done.
Am I getting a little bit of Daniel LaRusso up against Johnny Lawrence kind of stuff? Like if he he didn't believe, and then he's got to get Miyagi's got to talk him up and get him ready, and then he goes.
There is no spoon.
Wait, hold on, wait.
I'm mixing my Matrix in there. I sincerely believe that there's not a player playing right now that was playing in the league when the Galaxy and DC United did this back in the day under a slightly different format.
I know that's because Kyle Beckerman just no, he wasn't. Well, maybe he was for the Galaxy.
That might have been in one of his early seasons because he came in with Tampa Bay Mutiny, so he probably was in the league. Maybe Jeff Laurentis was. I'm not sure.
He was a Miami Fusion player, wasn't he?
Miami Fusion. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
but still, about the same time. Miami Fusion folded in what 2000.
Yeah, 2001 was their last season.
Yeah, so they have this. Kyle Beckerman may have been one of the last people that was actually playing the league when the Galaxy won, and DC United made this run as well. I'm saying that not a single MLS player has seen a team succeed in this competition. So what does that do for the belief of these players to think that they can do it?
The league is also much. The league is also much richer in terms of the variety of players it has now. I mean, you can't tell me that. And this is always kind of like trips me up is I guess there are players who, like you said, don't know if an MLS team can win it because they've never seen it happen and they've been in this league for 10 years. There certainly are players like that, but there are also players who come from Argentina and have won the Super Clasico and have won, been in Copa Libertadores and been in the Copa Sudamericana and watch and been part of those wins.
Yeah.
And they come here and suddenly they're like, well, I don't know if MLS can do it against.
Yeah, but you think one player can make a team win?
No, I'm just saying that there's enough of those players sprinkled in these teams that you would think that this institution.
So let's approach this from a different standpoint then. Let's get rid of the belief thing. This year, finally.
Yeah, you know what? Screw belief. Santa Claus isn't real. Sorry, kids. Go ahead.
Wow, holy crap, dude. The Grinch over here.
For me twice today already. I don't even know what
Santa, that's different. This year, we finally got to see the magic scenario that MLS fans have always wanted to see. And that's a final played while MLS teams are still in form. So you didn't have to play this through March and February and stuff like that, where MLS teams are coming out of the offseason. So despite that, and I will say LAFC probably had the most dominant, most consistent, and best run in CCL, even more than I think than Toronto, because they went through a Mexico team at almost every level of this and led 1-0 in the final and gave it away.
Okay. Okay. I'm going to be, you're talking about Grinch. I'm sorry. It is the season. Christmas is over, but I'm still going to pull it. I have to be the guy who says this was a centralized location and these were one-off games. Do we honestly think that LAFC was going to do the same thing? They did it against Leon. Give them credit for doing it against Leon.
Okay.
Against Cruz Azul, against Club America, and obviously they didn't get it done against Tigres. But would they have done it if it was two legs every single time and they had to go to Mexico?
It's a good job, but it works both ways, Jason. You can't just treat it as a negative. It could also be a positive for them too. Going down, they lost by one goal in the final, right? It was 2-1 in the end. Yeah, 2-1. Who's to say that they couldn't go to Mexico and get a result? Like this team has gotten results in Mexico, so. I'm just saying, like you can't use that just as a negative. It could be a positive for LAFC as well. In the end, in the most convenient format ever for an MLS team, the MLS team still came up short, though.
Okay. And again, let me pour some Grinch juice on top. I don't know what that is. What would be in that anyway? Like definitely kale involved if you're doing Grinch juice.
Something green.
Yeah,
kale's green, I guess.
I put bananas in there. Bananas goes in everything. The Grinch juice on this is that okay. I might agree with you that if the field was a little bit more level, and I've said this for years, the reason that MLS, the reason MLS is going to have such a hard time getting past Mexico isn't just that Mexico spends more money and Tigres is the team of the decade and CONCACAF and blah blah blah. It's because of that form thing, because they're not in rhythm, because they're entering the competition from a cold start, right?
Yeah,
and we're going to go back to that. Next year, we're going back to it. Now, I know, look, Victor Maitaliani is talking about expanding the tournament, and Brian Strauss is writing about new groups, and these groups would put Mexico and MLS teams against one another, I guess, in a group stage, and there'd be a regional champ. I don't even know what that new format's going to look like.
Yeah.
But I don't think it suddenly means they're going to be playing the games when MLS teams are in form. They're going to go back to games in February and March. And is it ever going to get better? Is it?
I think what's going to make it better for MLS teams to have a chance of winning, in my opinion, we always talk about the level of MLS, all this kind of stuff. I think the level of the other Central American teams has to come up, that a New Mexico team gets knocked out in an early round that they wouldn't normally, or something like that, where there is more competition in the early stages. I think that is one of the things that's also holding MLS back. But at the end of the day, MLS can only play the teams in front of them. Mexico can only play the teams in front of them. And Mexico continues to dominate MLS in this competition every year, even when it's the most beneficial scenario ever for MLS.
There is one surefire way. Okay, well, besides completely changing the calendar, which MLS is not going to do, there is another surefire way to finally close the little bit of that last little bit of gap. Right?
Top 2 teams go to Worlds.
Wait, what? Give me what is that one? What are we talking about here?
No, if the both finalists go to Worlds, the World Club Championship.
I thought you were making like some sort of like cheerleading movie reference or something. Everybody's going to
Worlds. Sound like something from Bring It On.
It does, right? Or dodgeball or something.
Or Pitch Perfect.
It could be Pitch for World. They did go to Worlds in 2, right? Is that what it was?
That's what it was.
3-1 with the trip overseas for the troops. I didn't watch that one. Was it good? Was 3 good?
I would say nothing's been close to the first one for me.
Okay. Right, obviously, the first one is untouchable. What I was gonna say, the way you close that gap, the way you get that little bit of extra, is to spend the money. Spend the damn money. And there's all this talk about, the leagues are going to combine, and Enrique Bonilla is working, trying to figure out how to put these leagues together. Leagues Cup is going to expand. There's a proposal on the table, by the way, in Mexico, for every team in the league to be in some international competition. And that would mean the bottom 6 are in Leagues Cup. So that's fun. But I don't think there's any other way to do this except to say, okay, get rid of all the budget restraints. Let teams spend what they want to spend. Or if you're going to not do that, well, then create some sort of massive incentive. You make the Champions League, all right, you get another $4 million in allocation. Something insane, right? That puts you...
Man, that is rough for the other teams in MLS, though.
I understand that. But if MLS can't do this thing where they talk out both sides of their damn mouth, we want to win the Champions League. We want to go to Club World Cup. We want to be one of the best leagues in the world.
You know, so the question then is, do you want that trophy bad enough to screw up your league?
Do you think that's what that is?
Absolutely, that's what it is.
No, you're right. You're right in the sense that giving the qualified for CONCACAF Champions League teams a ton more money does unbalance the league. And parity is part of the deal here. The rest of the world don't give a damn about parity, Jared. They're like, what is parity? That's not a thing. Sure. We don't care about that. Do you think MLS can hold on to parity the way that they have and still go and win a CONCACAF Champions League, still be competitive worldwide?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely they can. They've come a goal short many times, like a single goal short many times of winning the CCL.
Well, I'll tell you what, and maybe this is a pick your poison for you. I don't know. Look, you are an old school MLS head, so you come from a sort of natural place of acceptance with the league that maybe a lot of newer fans wouldn't, but I'm curious. If winning CONCACAF Champions League for Major League Soccer means entrenching ideas about controlled spending and parity, meaning that there is no incentive now to release the checkbooks and let clubs go spend a lot more money because you're already beating Mexican teams, are you okay with that? Would you rather them win the Champions League and enforce parity, entrench parity forever, or continue to lose because it might encourage the owners to spend more money?
I think there's nothing wrong with I think MLS has closed the gap enough at this point where I don't feel that you don't need. I would rather continue the way it is right now and grow slowly, incrementally. And here's the other thing: MLS is a selling league now. It's official. They're a selling league now.
That's true.
So, are you really playing for trophies in MLS, or are you playing for profit?
This is your hack, right? This is your you know those I don't know if I haven't been on Facebook in forever, but they used to have, like, you would scroll through Facebook and there'd be like these life hack videos, and like it would show you how to use like paper clips to, I don't know,
Hey, in a survival situation, you can soak your Fritos onto a napkin and use that to light as the oils come off the Fritos. Yeah, I know these things.
I didn't know that was
Oh yeah, if you got Fritos and then you're in a survival situation, you got to start a fire, let the oil off the Fritos onto like a napkin.
That's good. I'm going to use that one. I don't know if that would be these survival situations, but I actually used one because I was wrapping Christmas presents. This is very different than your Fritos hack.
Okay.
I was wrapping Christmas presents, and I had finished with the roll, and I was like, well, how do I keep it from unrolling? And when I put it away, I don't have a rubber band. Oh, I can take this toilet paper tube, cut it and slip it around, and now it's a sleeve that holds the wrapping paper. That was
check you out.
That's where I was going. The hack for Major League Soccer is that you make the clubs that are the best at development and sell players the way you're talking about. Maybe it's and it doesn't have to be academy kids, although you could make an exception for them and bring in more money. And right now, MLS teams get 100% of the money from an academy player. They just can't use it on their roster. But that's what you do to incentivize selling and selling high. You say, okay, you sell a player for $8 million. You can use, I don't know, 2/3 of that in allocation, a third of that.
I'm 100% okay with that, because that's self-incentivizing a team for development, something that's internal. Okay. It's not externally throwing money at a team just because they qualified for something.
But see, qualification is rewarding success. So you're going to reward development. That's fine. But what happens and there are certainly clubs out there who don't care as much about development, don't put the money in because they don't see it as worth it for them, or their particular region doesn't develop as much talent. And you certainly could open up the regions and get rid of the catchment areas. And that's another thing that we can talk about. But is it fair if, say, FC Dallas, LAFC, LA Galaxy, if the Galaxy start to care a little bit more, and I know Teclos has got the chops for that, is it right to incentivize them to sell players and then use that money to spend on their roster so they can be more competitive in the league and in the continent when there are clubs that will fall behind? What's the difference?
I like that second scenario more, because I feel like the long-term plan for MLS should be to raise the league's profile of being able to compete, to produce players on the international stage. That includes Americans. And I feel that there's a more grassroots, organic approach to letting them have more percentage of their sell-ons or transfer fees to develop their team, rather than just throw money at a team for having a good seeding at the end of the season. No, for me, I see you pursue more avenues that are on the path that direction.
No, I agree with you that because parity exists, there are teams who have found ways to gain an edge and be better. I mean, Seattle's an example of this. Obviously, they've been consistently good, but there will be years when kind of a fluky team that really isn't all that great or whatever, squeezes something out in the playoffs as opposed to the regular season. And it'd be weird to reward them with a bunch of allocation simply because they happen to finish third in the conference and then go to the semifinals. I do get that. But the question is how much
your solution is faster. I'll give you that. Your solution is faster to help with the competitive gap and closing that and getting a CCL championship.
So for MLS. I know we don't have the roster rules and the budget in front of us, and we're not looking at the CBA and all of that. And definitely Major League Soccer is not going to break the CBA to go give teams a bunch more money salary-wise, because as is always the case, MLS ownership are like, we don't want to pay anybody to do anything. We want to spend as little money as possible. It's only been when they've been smacked upside the head with reality that they've had to adjust anything. But what's the line? If let's take LAFC. Let's say Diego Rossi goes for $18 million. How much should LAFC be able to use on its playing roster? Not in the academy, not in infrastructure, on its actual roster.
I think whatever he was currently costing them plus 50%.
So the difference, meaning their profit.
Let's say he was $500,000 in cap. They should be able to spend $1 million. That's different. That's 100%. Excuse me. That's 750.
Why? But I mean, I think that's where they are right now. Isn't that where they are right now? Or is it only?
I'm saying you can let them go above the cap by 50% of whatever that player's current cost to the salary was that year.
How does that really incentivize anybody? I mean, I guess what I'm saying is, if the numbers are millions of dollars, why aren't we using those millions of dollars to help these teams get better? I'm not talking about $750,000 in allocation money.
Because the league's got to pay bills.
All right. Look, right now in the pandemic, it's not the best time for me to be arguing this, but there are certainly times when it feels like MLS is
okay. But for your scenario, $18 million. Let's say the club gets half of that and the league gets half of that. Right now, you're right. They basically can only use the same amount of money they already had for the salary cap of that $9 million to replace that player.
First of all, why should the league get half of that?
I'm just saying that I just pulled a number in my head. I don't even know if that's real.
I think it's like I don't remember what
that's the way the league's structured. They're going to get a piece of it.
I know. It's just
So if you want to have a conversation about single entity, that's an entirely different conversation. That's where you're going right now.
no, I know, and that's where my frustration lies. Because I get it. Back in 1994, hey, we got to figure out a way to make soccer work in America. Well, nobody cares about soccer. Okay, well, how do you keep the league from dying? Let's all get together and share the risk, and your team and my team will basically be the same. Okay, fine. Let's do that for a while. But here we are. It's 2020. This is the 25th season of MLS we just finished. We're heading into a new era, and the league wants to be competitive internationally. The league wants to beat Mexican clubs and can't seem to do it. And look, if Vela finishes his chance, maybe it's a different game because Gignac finished his, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not, like you said, they're close. But if you really want to be one of the best leagues in the world and not just kind of pretend at it and fake at it, well, then you got to do it. I mean, if you want to become the best, the best Mortal Kombat fighter in the world, you don't go down to the local park and spar with the kids on the basketball court, right? You got to go.
Losers only whine about their best.
That's right. I mean, I'm just saying, like, I'm you know me. I'm not necessarily the guy who goes and says, tear down MLS. It's a disaster.
But here's my question for you, though, Jason. Over the last 10 years, has MLS got more competitive in CCL or less competitive?
More competitive game to game against Mexican clubs, but it has not resulted in a championship. And to me, that's the only way you can measure.
So if LA had won that game 1-0, would you feel the same way right now?
I would feel like MLS had made a small step in the direction of being competitive. And I think there may be one team a year that can make a dent in that tournament. And this
I agree with that.
Now, here's the problem. Let's come back to single entity. Let's come back to the way that this league operates. Let's come back. Playoffs. I like the playoffs. And again, I'm not saying you change everything because of the Champions League. I'm saying if you talk about the Champions League like it matters to you, do something that indicates that. Because what happens next year? LAFC ain't in the tournament next year, Jared. They're not there. They didn't make it. They had a
that seems a little bit odd to me too. Like if you make the finals, there should be an automatic berth or something like the next season.
It's like the All Valley Karate tournament. You have to be there, right?
Defending champion. No, it's not defending champion. I guess defending finalist.
Defending best MLS champion. MLS team. No, look. Next year is Portland, who won MLS, is back. Let's see.
Yeah, well, I see your point though. What's the likelihood that Tigres, the winning Mexican team, would ever not qualify this next season? There's not the up and down nature in the Mexican league.
Look, it does occasionally happen in Mexico too because they have playoffs and there are other things involved. I'm not saying it never happens, but you have a cast of characters: Tigres, Club America, Monterrey, who was not in this version but will be in the next one. A couple other teams who typically make the tournament, right? They're typically there. And you can kind of build on that as you compete against the.
It's interesting you argue this point though, because you see Mexico taking some of the same steps as MLS though, in not allowing promotion from its second division.
No, that's true.
Like they're literally starting to adopt MLS's model, not the other way around.
Well, they're not putting a salary cap in place, but I will say that like ending pro rel in Mexico is more about how shady everything is down there with ownership and some of those teams in the second division not being able to pay their guys and all those things than it is about like, oh, we want to be like MLS. But I do think that the leagues coming closer together is interesting. I just don't know how you make that work.
I don't want a combined league. That's stupid to me.
I know you don't. So real quick, before we move on to other topics, let me go through the 4 teams that are in the Champions League in 2021 because it's coming soon. Like we just finished this one because of the delay, the shutdown, but it's March, right? Or February. Like when is it? It's starting soon, right? So
usually it ends at that time.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like
I don't know when it's beginning this time around the cycle.
No, the MLS teams and Mexican teams no longer participate in the group stage. It's only in the knockout rounds, and that's what comes in February and March. So that's what I'm saying. So you have 4 teams from MLS, and we're gonna. I guess Canada's going to figure out their champion soon, but it's probably going to be Toronto because they're playing against a Canadian championship or a Premier League team for the title in Canada. So you can consider them if you want. You tell me, I'm going to give you a buzz or a ding if you think these teams can actually make a run, let's say to the semifinal. Okay. Let's just pick up. So the MLS Cup champion Columbus Crew, do you think they can make a run to the semis?
No.
Oh, well, okay. We're not off to a good start here, everybody. Okay, let's see.
Do you think the Crew are dominant in any way?
No, the 2020
good story, good team. I mean, Do you think they're going to travel to Mexico and be able to? I just don't.
I think they're a decent team. I
don't feel they have a swagger. Let me say the Toronto teams that's competed, the LAFC team that competed, the Atlanta team that competed, champions in their own right. LAFC may not so much, but
you know what?
Swagger.
I think it's also about how fast you play. And I don't think Columbus plays fast enough. LAFC plays as fast as anybody in this league has ever played.
Agreed.
That helps him a lot. All right. The number 2 on this list, and you're going to upset some people that are listening to us right this second, Jared, if you say they're not making a run, the 2020 Supporter Shield winners, Philadelphia Union.
I'm going to say no, because they're going to have at least one major component of their team missing that was a big part of it last year, maybe 2. I mean, we said that about Philly. This was maybe a shot in the dark. They have other kids coming up, but this was like a one-run kind of thing unless they can find quickly the components to replace the ones that were in place.
I think Philly will be competitive next year. I think they'll be in the mix for the playoffs and all that.
It's too bad I can't get Jonathan Taylor Tannenwald on right now to talk about the Philly aspect. We can't get the phones going tonight, but I'm glad he's in the chat.
Well, okay, he's in the chat. He's agreeing with with Jared on the Union. I think he disagreed on Columbus. The Union were always fragile is not the right word, because I think institutionally they're fine and they will be fine again. But
I don't
they're
think fragile, thin.
Okay, thin, but fragile in the sense.
Thin's not the right word either. I would say there is an expiration date on the Philly Union. I think that's the way I think of it more. There was a 1-year expiration date because you knew Brendan Aronson was moving. You know Mark McKenzie is likely not to be there at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And I think that's just 2 really big components. You've got some other great people in Fontana. You've got great people on the come up. Mm-hmm. But are you really expecting them to compete at the same level this season? I don't think so.
Very good question. So we're 0 for 2 right now on teams that Jared Dubois believes can make a run in the Champions League in 2021. The number 3 team on the list, as I go from the MLS Cup champion and the Supporter Shield winner to the MLS's back champion, Portland Timbers. Jared, you believe they can make a deep run?
They can make it semis.
Really?
Right. For me, it comes down to a big part of his leadership. And you have a team of Diego Valeri, Diego Chara, and you've got a few good leaders on that team that have played big games.
I know, but unless they lean fully into some shithousery as is CONCACAF's nature, man, I just don't know if they got the legs for it. I really don't.
I mean, we're also judging them with not knowing where their teams are going to be.
It's true.
Don't you believe more in the Portland starting 11 right now than what you think the Philly starting 11 is likely going to be on March 1st or whatever the season started?
Probably, but Nishgoda, I don't think he's going to be back. His injury hurts them a lot.
But they didn't have him down the stretch either.
Well, I know, but Bobasi, I don't know what's going on with him. He stopped getting the starts again.
No, didn't he have he had a concussion or something?
Yeah, you're right. He had the concussion. So maybe he's back and fine and healthy. I don't know. I feel like they're
out of those three teams, though. You're going to pick Columbus Crew above either of those other 3 teams. Isn't Portland Timbers the most likely semifinalist runner?
Yeah, but it's like that much.
There's gonna be a lot of people who are gonna give me hate right now, but this is the weakest CCL submission I can think in a long time in terms of 3 teams.
That's exactly my point. Okay,
that's because the big teams had a stumble year. The Atlantas had a stumble year. The LAFCs had a stumble year. Well, Seattle, Toronto.
Hold on. Atlanta's going. Atlanta's the 4th team from MLS to be in the Champions League next year.
Listen, they're going to have Joseph Martinez back. They're going to have a new coach. They have a chance. But we don't know what they're going to look like. I would still put Portland above them right now because they're a known quantity.
Okay, well, here's now,
if Toronto qualifies, if Toronto ends up being the Canadian team, do they have a better shot than Portland? We don't know who their coach is going to be.
No, we don't know who the coach is going to be.
Is Michael Bradley still going to be able to contribute to that team? Is Josie Altidore still going to be on that roster at the beginning of the season?
Don't know.
There's a lot of unfortunate things to win in. So what's an MLS team other than LAFC that is stronger than the ones we've mentioned that could compete? Seattle.
No.
You don't think Seattle will be more competitive than Portland?
Seattle will be more competitive than all of those teams.
And they also have the world's worst surface to have home games on.
But I also believe that Seattle would hit a wall. And maybe semis is that wall. So maybe
I say world worst surface now that Avaya is getting theirs fixed.
Okay. So world's longest outdoor bar and no longer world's worst surface.
Yes.
But also not called Avaya anymore.
But listen, those teams in Mexico aren't used to playing on artificial surface. That's an advantage for Seattle.
Yeah, and they've been there before. They've been in the Champions League and they've made, but I can't remember if they
final.
They've been in a Champions League final?
I
No.
believe so when Dempsey was there, wasn't he?
No.
I'm about to check on that.
No, I believe 3 teams have made a Champions League final.
RSL. Well, obviously this year LAFC.
Mhm.
And Toronto.
No. Oh yeah, 4. Sorry, 4. Yes, I'm sorry.
Toronto.
There's 4. Yeah.
Did Atlanta make it?
No.
Who's the other one?
I think Montreal made one
That's a shocker.
because they didn't have they didn't have a Mexican team on the way. There was it got cleared out for them, and they ended up with Club America, I think, in the final, if I remember correctly. I might have that wrong. Jonathan Taylor Tannenwald can tell us if I'm wrong about that one. But yeah,
he says 4. RSL, Montreal, Toronto, LAFC.
yeah, that's what I said.
Yeah,
Yes.
for some reason I thought Seattle was the 4th.
No, Seattle didn't get. That's what I'm saying. Seattle doesn't have maybe they're capable of it. And by the way, is Jordan Morris going to be there? I actually probably think he will be because I don't know where else he can go right now.
Yeah.
Rui Diaz, Nicolas Ladero is just on a new contract. He's going to be there.
Yep.
How good can he continue to be? I mean, I guess maybe there's no question of that. I don't know. Is João Paulo good enough in the midfield? If they're not, is it Svensson? Is he coming back? I actually don't know about that. I get lots of questions. Just lots and lots of questions. Shane O'Neill.
How many road down brothers does it take to be in a CCL final?
Are you taking Shane O'Neill in the Champions League against Mexican competition and being like, yep, that's the guy I want there? That dude.
A team is more than one person, though.
I know.
I'm sure every Mexican team has a guy on their team too. They're like, "Oh man, this guy makes me nervous."
Yeah, maybe that's true. You mentioned MLS being a selling league, and that's kind of where we're headed. Are you stunned? Is it scrambling your brain a bit as an old school MLS guy to see what's going on with Brian Reynolds and the rumors? I mean, I know the rumors, but it's bonkers, dude. Like, where did that come from?
A guy that maybe started 2 months of the season is worth $9 million to Roma. Like that's some big stuff. But teams like Roma and other big, large European teams, they bet on potential. They invest on potential. They see a product. They buy at a point position where they think they can make their money back and sell later on. If I'm Dallas should be the most successful team in the next 3 or 4 years because they are selling players and creating players. They need to keep this up. Now, I don't think they don't get any kind of Wes McKennie sell on, right? Because he never actually appeared for them.
No, they would get under the new recognition. They would.
But if you don't think Juventus and Roma are saying, "Hey, where did Wes McKennie come out of?" and that's one of the reasons why Brian Reynolds is getting the attention that he is,
sure.
You're crazy
for sure. I mean, I think McKennie is. He is the trailblazer here in a lot of ways because and I think there are a couple of things at play. One of them is that McKennie plays a position that doesn't require a bunch of scoring, a bunch of counting stats and scoring. Like you don't.
He plays 3 positions for Juventus.
I know, that's what I'm saying, and he's versatile. He's useful. He's athletic, and I think that what they're recognizing at Juve, and this might not be true of every American player, but what they're recognizing at Juve is that the American soccer IQ is high enough now that you go after these kids, because I don't think it was ever. You hear this all the time. American kids are on par with their contemporaries around the world until they hit 16, and then suddenly they drop off. And the reason they drop off is because they don't get that tactical education.
They play high school ball or something like that. But I would say there's a tandem thing effect there that you're talking about. It's the soccer IQ is where it needs to be, combined with the price that they can get a player at.
Right. Well, the pandemic is a part of that, and don't think it's not. And so this is what I'm wondering.
If you have a young Frenchman at Brian Reynolds' level, at his same skill level, it's going to cost you way more than Brian Reynolds is going to cost
20,
you.
Probably. If he's a Brazilian, he's costing you 30. I mean, and there are obviously examples of players from those countries who flamed out and weren't worth that money.
Dallas has to sell, though. Dallas has to sell because there's no way his value goes up from here. Like the amount of investment. I'm saying the investment to profit ratio is never going to be higher than it is right now, because every game you play for Dallas going forward, he only has a chance to potentially get injured, go down in value. Literally, it's a 2-month investment in your starting team for $9 million.
Yeah, I think so. I think you have to sell. I think
Look at Paxton Pomykal. You don't think that he would like to be moving right now this offseason towards ACL?
Sure. And he's going to be back, and I think he'll get his move eventually. I think there are a couple of things for Dallas. Number one, $9 million, and remember, you get to keep 100% of your fee.
That's Josie's level transfer fee as a star striker out of MLS.
Josie was also 10 years ago. Josie,
I'm just saying that's the difference of where we were and where we are now.
No, I know. I'm just saying that the inflation on Josie's number would make it more like 15 million than the 9 million he went for, or 8 million to be real. But what I'm saying is, and maybe Major League Soccer teams aren't thinking about this in this way anymore. But I remember for years, and I don't remember exactly how much he went for, but Mo Adu was sold by Toronto to, was it Stoke or Rangers? Rangers, I think.
Rangers
goes from Toronto to Rangers, and it's not more than like $3 million. I don't think. It was a long time ago. It was a significant amount of money at the time for an MLS player, but it is. He went for something like $3 million, and they basically funded their academy. They built training facilities on the back of Mo Adu money, and it was at a time when you didn't even get to keep all of the money. Major League Soccer took a big chunk, or I guess still does in the case of a player you draft.
But you could make the case that Josie Altidore's sale is one of the things to help New York Red Bulls with their academy and producing players like Tyler Miller. Tyler Adams. Wow, why is it Tyler Miller?
Tyler Miller.
Adams.
Tyler Miller, totally different guy.
Tyler Adams.
Tylers are everywhere. I think at 9 million, if those numbers are right, you have to take the money. You have to run. I do think, it's crazy to imagine that a team, it's sort of like how an MLS team is replacing their soccer specific stadium, and that's a mind-blowing thing for me. Like, oh my God, the Crew are building a second soccer specific stadium. What country do we live in? Can you imagine an MLS team having to replace their right back for the second time in a year because both of the right backs they had, and both of them academy products, got sold for multi-million-dollar transfer fees? That's bonkers. When did it?
To put a bow on this before we move on to something else, the reason I am not as stressed about CCL trophies and the competition with Mexican teams at that level,
nobody cares.
Because the U.S. national team level is putting products in place in Europe at a higher level more consistently. And ultimately, for me, I'm willing to suspend success in the CCL to have a starting 11 in Europe for the U.S. national team, which Mexico is looking at right now and saying, how do we compete with that?
I'm not usually one for scoring points against. I've long said that that MLS should stop measuring itself by Liga MX, and the U.S. men's national team should stop measuring itself against Mexico, meaning beat Mexico. You definitely want to beat Mexico. That's your regional rival. Beat them in the Gold Cup, beat them in qualifying. But stop thinking about that being your foil at all times, because the goal should be to be better than Mexico, because I think there's a very strong argument for Mexico underperforming their potential for the last 40 years, right? They've always been held back by something in Mexico. So I think you should be better than that. However, I saw one of those MLS accounts or U.S. men's national team accounts on Twitter say something like, the Americans in the Champions League under the age of 22 or something, that was some age-based thing, have
the amount of minutes.
They have 1,000 minutes in the Champions League in the last week, whereas Mexico has has fewer than that in like the last 5 years or something like that.
I think it was 15 years, Jason.
15 years. I mean,
I saw that same thing. I think it was 15, but I apologize if I'm wrong.
I mean, Mexico doesn't sell their players. That's part of this. You have
and you say what holds Mexico back? Mexico players never felt the need to go to Europe.
Right. Well, because it was always in their better financial interest to stay at home. Yeah.
And they were competitive in CONCACAF, and they were easily the big fish in the pond for a number of years. I think they're starting to see that might not be the case.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, it just you mentioned the Mexico thing, so it's just one of the elements of this. All right, you want to talk about dual national players and flip flopping and all of that, and is this catching your girl like having a cup of coffee? Like, not
listen. We had a drink. Like me and this girl had a drink. Okay. Mm-hmm. I got her number. We said, hey, maybe let's do something another time. We didn't stay the night or anything.
Did she text you with like heart eyes emoji or like?
No, I think it's more emoji? Like, hey, can I get your number? Yeah, put in your phone. Just send her a text in the moment so she has yours too. Just says, what's up? Here's my number. And then, let's get together again soon. That's where it left.
That's what happened.
In the meantime, and you're thinking, I'm going to give this 2 weeks. I want to play it cool. Well, no, I'm going to give it cool. Play it cool.
Did you feel sparks in the beginning? Was there is this a meet cute situation, or is there okay, all right? Because you weren't throwing game, and she was like, I don't really want to deal with you. So here's. No,
I think there was mutual interest. There's mutual interest.
Okay.
And then in the meantime, some Canadian dude comes and sets up a date with her, and you see her on it.
Was he on? He's not wearing like one of those Canadian tuxedo situations, right? We're not talking about denim on denim, are we?
I think more hockey jersey.
But hockey jerseys don't look good on a person who's not wearing hockey pads.
So that's a Canadian.
Oh. Was he carrying a bottle of maple syrup, or was that?
So what is it? My thing is, so if Akinola has now accepted a call up to Canada, doesn't mean anything more than what it meant when he accepted a call up to the U.S. national team. But little bit worrisome. And then would this have happened if U.S. had announced its January camp 2 weeks earlier? Do we have Akinola in that camp? Was he going to take this call up no matter what to see both sides? Or if we had acted quicker and made our January camp known and put out a roster for it, would he have come there instead?
To me, this is 100% about neither camp being a binding event, and you can't be cap tied by virtue of accepting either call up, and therefore you do. And look, this happens at the youth international level all the damn time. If I remember correctly, and somebody who's a soccer nerd might be able to get the actual information here for me. And they're obviously Julian Araujo and Efrain Alvarez and a lot of the Mexican American players have been in both Mexican camps and American camps.
Yeah,
if I remember correctly, Luis Hill, I think it was Luis Hill. He was in camp with youth national teams for like 4 different countries. Like, it was an insane number of countries. He
there's a South American one.
Peru or not Peru. Portugal maybe was in there at one point. Like, it was just nuts. And it's not that Luis Hill could have played for any of them. It's not like he had his choice. It was low stakes, right? And I know this is the senior level, and therefore it seems more, this isn't like a high school dance where you're just changing partners.
Isn't it though the chronology of it, how close it was to our call up? Isn't that what makes it hurt a little bit more?
You think that Io should have been like, no, I just had this date with this other.
I'm going to give you a true life, somewhat torrid story from Jay Rodius' life.
Oh no! Oh no! Should I be worried?
I had this girl that was my Winnie Cooper growing up. Like my Winnie Cooper, pined over my whole life. Finally, we were friends forever.
Really smart in math. Is that right? Is that what Winnie Cooper? Biology?
Just whatever. Let's just put it that way. Okay.
Sure. Go ahead. And
for years, I went to school since like first grade. Okay.
Can you imagine a Wonder Years with the Rodius and the voiceover? I just think that would be.
It does be on HBO. So I'm probably about 22. We finally hook up and do all the things that 22-year-olds do when they're single and having fun. The next morning,
I don't want to know.
Next morning, I am waking up just in a bed with a nice young lady.
Are the angels?
It's the next morning. Let's just leave it at that. It's the next morning, and she literally sets up a date with another guy that night. In the bed with me.
You're 22. I mean, I guess
I'm just saying it's the frequency, it's the timing, it's how close together they were. That's how you feel about the scenario. We had nothing attached.
Sure,
but can a guy get a little bit of respite?
Hold on. What was your move? Was your move like, hey, can I see you tomorrow?
I mean, we were like best friends forever too. Like, so it was like, and I knew that she I was not her first by any means, and so. I'm just saying our experience levels were quite different at that point.
Oh, you were raw. You were young and raw at this point. She was much
seasoned.
Okay. Yeah, as a modern
and it was a different thing for me to do this type of thing. So but it was definitely I was taken aback about how unemotional that moment was.
Okay. So I don't know how we're going to bring this back to Io Akinola, but let's try to do that. So Io Akinola again was already in the youth national team set up for the U.S. men's national team, right? Then he goes and plays. Well, he was always in Toronto's academy, but he breaks through the first team. We start to hear reports that Greg Vanney, who is an American, by the way, but coach of Toronto FC at the time, pulls young Io aside and says, son, I think maybe you should play for Canada. Now, I imagine from a coach's perspective,
a poor parent,
TFC coach's perspective, nicer to have him close to home when he goes off the national team camp. He doesn't have to go very far because they're going to do it in Toronto. What else are you going to do? Where else are you going to do a national team camp in Canada?
Toronto's not even playing in Toronto these days.
Well, no, but at the time, during that situation, I think that clearly that might have part of been the thought because and Canada is not nearly as active as you know what I'm saying? Like Canada, they're not doing as much. They're not mixing it up as much as the U.S. men's national team normally would. And
but in a normal club environment where there's transfer fees, money attached, this is the hardball you would play to get a better contract, better. Like, what does USA? What can they do to compete here?
Nothing.
Call
can
in Daryl DK. Call in Daryl DK in the next camp and be
I
like,
don't-
maybe
hold on.
like
You're
see another dude playing your position.
the move is to make him jealous. That's the move. There's a January
Oh.
camp. There's reports that they might play Serbia. I think it's
I
Serbia.
think it's Serbia.
Okay. If Ayo Akinola is available, you call him up.
I think the Canadian camp is actually after the January camp, but I don't think you bring him in if he's already attached to another camp like in February or March, right?
I think you give him the option. I think you could look. Okay, no,
Ooh.
all of it. Hold on. All of this is predicated on whether or not he is your Winnie Cooper or even close to that. Okay, we're making Ayo Akinola out into this superstar phenom, and he's not that. He's a good.
Listen, when is the only girl at your school? She is the Winnie Cooper for you because there's no other choice. There's 2 girls at our school right now.
I don't know that, man. It's the other thing that always bugs me about the dual national situation is that, and we do this as fans. I don't know that Greg Berhalter's doing it. I don't think he is. I think he's smarter than that. Whatever you think about his tactics or how he gets the team to play, I think he's smart enough to know that if you put too much attention on a player simply because they have choices, this is again the in-demand thing, right? So
Yeah.
there are American players who are not in demand because they do not have options, because they are locked in. They only have one passport. They only have one citizenship. They cannot change countries. Whereas Ayo Akinola has options. So does Daryl DK, by the way, but I don't think he's quite as in demand.
But listen, no one was mad when AJ De La Garza wouldn't play for Guam because he just honestly was not quite at the level for the U.S. national team. Or
Right.
when who's the guy that played for Iran? I was on Columbus.
Justin Miram was Iraq. It was
Justin
Iraq.
Miram. Yeah.
Whereas, here's another one. Brandon Servania just got called up to the Puerto Rican national team. Now, Puerto Rican national team ain't nothing, and I can say that as a man married to a Puerto Rican. Soccer in that country, on that island is not much of anything. But if he plays in an official competition, he'd be capped to Puerto Rico. He'd never be able to play for the United States.
Oh, okay.
Is
Let's
Brandon
open this
Servania
conversation
playing-
up differently. Let's open up this conversation differently. Would you feel as laissez-faire as you are about Akinola going to Canada for a appearance if it was Yunus Musa
No, of course
getting called
not.
up to England?
No, and I've I thought about the same thing.
Dog, that's an approach.
If this was Yunus Musa, or this was a player, with
Gio Reyna going to an Argentina call-up.
well, that's completely different. I mean, that's the son of our former captain. I would freak out over that one. You're supposed to be going out with us. You can't go out with anybody else. Not allowed.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that you have this tendency to overrate a player who has options. I just think that's a natural thing that happens, and maybe you can recognize it intellectually and still fall victim to it, right? And I wonder if that's the thing that might be happening for you, Jerry.
So it's a must call-up now for Daryl DK, though, right?
If Daryl DK is healthy, you call him up because he didn't play in the last run.
Yeah.
That's why you call him up, because you want to see what he has, see what he can do. I mean, we're working on limited information.
If DK is not healthy, Akinola's in Canada's camp. What striker do you bring in?
I mean, I like BDE a little bit better than Ayo Akinola, or Ayo Akingola, as I think we have decided to call him. Will you call up Giassi's artist because he's in MLS and he's not going to be doing anything unless the camps are underway and he's got to get
I
rid
guess
of
maybe you wonder if a Bobasay can play, but he's not a striker like in those 2 guys.
No, I don't. Yeah. Well, I like Bobasay. I do. I think he's
Yeah, it's
talent.
a central striker like those guys, though.
Well, just because he's been pushed to the wing in Portland on occasion doesn't mean he's a wing player. I think you play him through the middle and see what happens. I think you can
Okay.
do that. There was
Jesse's artist is the call-up then.
and that's not bad. Let's not make that.
Listen, I've been the one that's been the more Zardes trained than you over the last year.
No, I know. I know.
Aaron Johansson's probably on a deep winter break.
You ready for the next one? Who people are going to freak out over is
Who's that?
Balogun. You know about Balogun at Arsenal?
Oh, yes.
Now he's similar to Yunus, where he's got like 3 different teams he could play for. He's similar to Yunus in the fact he was born in New York City, which I think is where Yunus Musa was also born.
Yes.
So there's a lot of that. Now, obviously, as an attacking player, it's slightly different, but we're talking about a forward. And where are we focused on right now? Who are we talking about? Akinola and DK and Zardes and where's
Josh Sargent, who got a goal.
are you good on Josh Sargent now? Are you shining?
No, I'm just saying. I just brought up the fact that we're talking about strikers, and I should feel like I should acknowledge the fact that he got a goal.
You should acknowledge that. You should.
But I told you my threshold for taking him seriously for the national team, right? Get 10 goals this year.
10. What is he at 3? Is he on 3 or 2?
I think he has 2, dude.
2. He's on 2. Dude.
There might be 1 in the German Cup. I don't know.
Yeah, I think he has 1 in the German Cup, which you don't count. You don't count the.
Listen, if you're not going to count Terrence Boyd's goals for lower division against lower division teams, why would you count Josh Sargent's playing against lower division teams?
Okay. All right. That's fair. I won't argue with that one. I guess that makes sense. All right.
Justin says in the chat, Giassi's that side piece that you can rely on him to be around. Man, he's just hanging on the phone for us. Dang, that's brutal.
I don't like that at all.
Someone needs to put a ring on Giassi is what you're saying. Giassi deserves a ring.
It's like Craig's girlfriend at the beginning of Friday.
I'll say right now, Giassi Zardes is probably the most informed striker that USA has, and probably should be the starter right now.
I'm saying Justin shouldn't relegate Giassi Zardes to thirsty guy sitting on. I mean, Giassi Zardes, I know he doesn't have options. He's already an American international. He's got to accept the call up. But I don't know. Let's.
Well, it's also Berhalter's boy.
Let's give him.
Don't forget how many games Giassi Zardes got at the beginning of Berhalter's tenure.
Well, he was also head coach of Columbus when they traded for him, right?
That's what I'm saying. Like that's Berhalter's boy.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. By the way, since we did start this on a Monday afternoon while Chelsea was playing, Chelsea and Villa drew 1-1. Christian Pulisic went 90 minutes. Didn't score. I think somebody said he had a hot.
You worried about Christian Pulisic playing 2 games in 48 hours with that hamstring injury?
Slightly, but also if they trust.
I was surprised to see Frank Lampard start him again in that.
How
game.
Do you feel about Christian's beard choices, facial hair?
I'm okay with it. I think he rocks it well. I think he wears it well.
He's like yo-yoing. I mean, I'm not sayan you have to commit
because he shaves every other week. That's weird to you. Commit to something in your life, boy.
I can't remember last time I didn't have facial. I shaved it last year
I shaved like once a week. So I feel him on it.
All right. Well, I mean, I guess if you have the baby face and
listen, I can't grow a man's beard. I'll be honest with you about it.
Then I feel like I have something.
I got like 3 nipple hairs and 4 chest hairs. Like I'm not a man.
Oh, that's not something.
But here's the thing. Here's what I do think is interesting. So Christian Pulisic finally got 90 minutes at left wing. And that's been, I think, one of the big criticisms of Frank Lampard over the season is that he's shoehorning Timo Werner into that left winger spot that Christian Pulisic was incredibly successful with over the summer.
What is it about Frank Lampard? Why does he do this thing where he won't just take a
Timo
player?
Werner, it's like he wasn't watching the first 3 games of Chelsea's season. Timo Werner did great, the center striker position.
What position did Timo Werner play at Leipzig? What did he play? What are you doing, Frank?
And listen, I get Giroud produces. He produces, but you're not playing him every game as strikers, but you're putting Tammy Abraham in front of Timo Werner, and you're forcing Werner out to the left, and that makes Pulisic go to the right.
Yeah.
Look at today's game. I think you'll see that Ben Chilwell was more productive and played better because he had Christian Pulisic in front of him, who does a better job of cutting in. Werner plays too far out on the chalk when he played for a right-footed player. I don't know why he plays so wide when he plays left. Probably because he's not used to playing there.
Yeah.
Whereas Pulisic likes that position, and I think Chilwell had a more effective game today for the 60, 70 minutes we got to see before we started our show. I didn't get to see the last bit.
I do worry about the man's hamstrings. Please take them now and put them in crates and store them away.
I'm also worried that he's probably not very confident right now. He got the hockey assist today.
No, I think that's true, but I still think, regardless of where his confidence level is, he's got to build that back up. He's still lightning every time he touches the ball. Like you watch him.
He's also lucky that not any other Chelsea player is making a name for themselves right now in that offensive third. Giroud's the only person you can really count on, and he's too old to play every game.
I was gonna give you a picture poison.
Okay.
Let me see if I can formulate it properly. Okay.
Oh, you need a comparison.
I know you're not watching a ton of the Premier League or a ton of Aston Villa, but would you take Christian Pulisic or Jack Grealish right now?
Oh, okay. I would probably take Jack Grealish just because he's hotter right now. He's hotter right now. He's in form.
On the field or with the short socks and the
listen. I do not approve of his hairband. I think that is atrocious.
By the way, hold on.
He's got older brother Boy Meets World hair, and because it's that weird hair curtain length, it's not long enough to fully put back, and it's too long to leave down in front of your face. So it looks weird right now. But I think Jack Grealish is a hell of a player, dude.
Okay, you take him over Pulisic because in the moment.
But here's the thing: Grealish might just be standing out more because he has to be the main guy on that team.
He does, right?
Whereas Pulisic has a ton of players that are next to him that just for some reason aren't getting him the ball.
Yeah. We can't really go into this in depth on this show because it is ultimately still kind of a family friendly program. I don't know. We write some lines.
I just told a story that probably wasn't.
Do you know about Jack Grealish and the thing that happened
No.
with the photograph? Okay.
No.
I'm just gonna say if
I'm interested. You piqued my interest.
If you don't know about Jack Grealish and the photo that popped up on social media a couple of weeks back, go find it. It will.
Is it like a pic you send a lady?
No, there's a lady in it.
Oh,
She's not fully dressed.
is he?
He's laying on you kind of see chest up from him. I don't believe he's wearing anything. And
Okay, listen, he's a
got
handsome man.
He's
I'm
got
gonna
the biggest shit-eating grin you've ever seen on his face.
Listen, if you're a starting winger on a Premier League team, there's a lot to smile about.
He's not smiling in this picture.
Is he English? What's his nationality? Is he English?
Yeah, I think he's English, one of those English Irish guys who play throughout the country. I believe that's the case with Jack Grealish.
Man, Grealish, if you give me Christian Pulisic in the summer, I'm taking Christian Pulisic. But Jack Grealish is hot, dude. The way he turns on defenders and gets around the corner, it's impressive.
Okay. I just was curious.
But I think they're similar players, though. I think they're very similar players.
No, Justin is not a Richard pick. That's not what I'm talking about. You don't have to worry about it. It's not safe for work if you are working in an office these days. I will say that, but there's no male nudity involved.
Eric has a question. What about Jordan Morris as a center forward for the January camp? I don't see how that makes sense if that's not his future.
No, there is that. If you are by necessity playing Jordan Morris in the center, you need him. He's going to make back shoulder runs from that position. So you need somebody who can play those balls on the ground for him. Who's going to play those balls?
How's Jordan Morris' hold up play? I don't really know. I never really see him have to do it.
You don't have to. You don't have to play with the back to go forward.
Don't. But if you have Gio Reyna, so here's the thing. I think the reason he's asking this is because Gio Reyna could potentially take Jordan Morris' position on the field, or could he get Pulisic and Reyna on the field at the same time? So is it better to have Jordan Morris, a fantastic player, be the top 6 striker, top 6 offensive players in the U.S. Team, on the bench, to put a less than stellar forward in the mix? I think that might be why he's asking that question, because you have a great weapon in Jordan Morris sitting on your bench, so you can have Gyasi Zardes and striker.
I would rather start a player who lines up as a forward regularly for his club team than play a guy out of position just to get him on the field.
I'm agree with that, because I think what you're seeing is if you put Jordan Morris in that position, you're looking at Sebastian Lletget as a false 9 all over again against Wales. That's basically what you'd be doing.
No. Jordan Morris understands the movement needed of a forward way better than Sebastian Lletget does, just by muscle memory. And again, I think Jordan Morris, the same runs Jordan Morris makes for Seattle, he can make them as a center forward for the U.S. men's national team. You just have to adjust the way that you play, right? It's no longer Christian Pulisic getting isolated, because now what are you doing with that? You're looking for late runs to cut the ball back. You're looking for maybe Christian Pulisic to cut it on the right.
But who's the better passer between Gyasi Zardes and Jordan Morris?
Jordan Morris, I think, is a better passer.
So who's going to slip a ball between a streaking Gio and a streaking Pulisic? It's Jordan Morris. Like, the ball at feet is not even a contest who's better, like in terms of because. But in terms of runs into the box, winning balls in the air.
You're right. I was thinking about combination play. But Morris is definitely better for combination play than Zardes is. Yeah. I mean, like neither one of them are going to go up and win a ton of balls in the air. So you're not crossing. Hopefully you're not playing a lot of aerial crosses, because
it's an interesting choice though, because like if no one is super hot on Gyasi Zardes or a couple other choices that we have at striker, is it better to have someone of Jordan Morris's quality in there? Let me flip. We're going to wrap this up, but I want to flip that question just for a second on this, because a long time ago on this program, I don't know when we were talking about, you were talking about MLS and players in Europe, and I think it was when we were talking about Brian Reynolds. It was asked whether or not the United States will go into 2022 without. Here it is. Harold said, can you make a U.S. men's national team without MLS for 2022? And is that actually possible? Now, you can't do a full team of 23 players going to the World Cup without MLS. I don't think that's possible.
but you could put together a starting lineup without MLS. Now you'd have a problem at center back. Well, no, Miazga could be there, but you would have to go with Miazga over some of the other options. Just a thought. We can close this out, Jared, but just a thought.
I don't really have that much of an opinion on it, and honestly, I do kind of need to wrap right now. I hear my front door being opened, and I'm the only adult here. And I don't know why it's open.
Well, let's get out of here then. Appreciate it, Jared. Thank you for jumping on Monday. Thanks everybody for listening to this weird one, and we'll be back, I guess, next week. Listen to From the Stands this week. It's going to be about Owen Otasowie. Talk to you soon, guys. Bye.
Danger Zone! Damn, Paul. Get up the ropes.
Duh, and/or hello. I wouldn't be cut dead in a sweater vest.
Oh, it's incredible! Get to the chopper! Who asked those questions?
You shut your mouth when you're talking to me.
Oh, would you look at that? An absolute firecracker.
Jay Rodius.